Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we're going over UFC 301, Pantoja versus Erceg. First things first, make sure you give this video a like, hit the subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is the Stats and Stacks podcast. Super quick review of last week. Crushed it. All six official bets hit. We got a little lucky. Mahashate, that was pretty greasy. I thought he lost the fight, but hey, that's the way the fight game crumbles. Same with Dontel Mays as a live dog. I thought that was pretty close, but the judges gave that to us as well. So hey, some days you're gonna get absolutely fucked. We've had our fair share of getting screwed over. Last week was our week, so we'll take it. We'll go ahead and pat ourselves on the back and just move on to this fight card. Is it the greatest pay per view in the world? No, it's not. It's absolutely not. But at the end of the day, it is fights. There's a title fight, and it's in Brazil. The crowd's going to be electric. So at the end of the day, it's a UFC pay per view. We're going to end up watching it. So no need to complain about it. And let's just make sure we pay. If you want to complain about the pay per view costing $80, let's just make $80 at a minimum in regards to our bets and have it pay for itself. So I did forget a lot of the notes in regards to this card. So we're just kind of flying blindly. We'll check out the ESPN instead of Tapology for a change, switch things up a little bit. Yeah, switch things up, do different things. Let's go around. But you're not here to hear me ramble. You're here to figure out who you should bet and why. So let's start with the very first fight of the night. We have Alessandro Costa as a minus 135 favorite going up against Kevin Borjas at plus 114. Over under sitting at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 110. Under 2.5 minus 120. Let's go ahead and start with Alessandro Costa. He's someone that trains over at Lobos MMA with Alexa Grasso and Diego Lopez and Lupi Godinez, that new little like Mexican group. It's a good gym, man. Jiu-jitsu's top tier. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Heavy leg kicks. He throws a ton of leg kicks with a ton of power. His striking's not bad all in all. His wrestling's okay. It's not good. It's not bad. It's serviceable. He's kind of a short, stocky build. He's going to be at a reach disadvantage here, but I thought it would be a lot worse than it truly is. Only 1 inch difference here, which is super nice. He's also fought the better level of competition. He's fought Steve. He's someone that's one and two in the UFC, but his losses are to the title challenger right now in Steve Erceg and Amir Albazi, who would be fighting for the title if he wasn't injured. So he lost to two of the top five guys, and then he beat Jimmy Flick. He's someone that's really good on the ground. We just don't see a ton of it because of who he's fighting. He's fighting Steve Erceg, who is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's fighting Jimmy Flick, where all he does is grapple. He's fighting Miro Bazzi, who just wrestles and grapples the entire time. So what you really are seeing him is trying to kind of sprawl and brawl. And he is a good striker, but his jiu-jitsu is some of the best part of his game. On the other side, we have Kevin Borjas, who is the complete opposite of what Alessandro's been facing. Kevin Borjas is a striker through and through. He's from Peru. That it's a very elevated area, so his cardio seems to check out. He just wants to strike and go as long as he has to with his cardio. His cardio is good. 26 years old. He has a loss in the UFC to Joshua Van. He also beat Ozzy Diaz in the, or not Ozzy, oh God, his last name was definitely Diaz in the Contender Series. One where he was a huge dog and he came through. Just kind of sprawled and brawled, and that's his forte. He does have a submission loss on his record. His jiu-jitsu is okay. It's not great. Costa definitely has the advantage on the ground. On the feet, though, I will give the edge to Borjas. He only has a 1 inch reach advantage here, but he fights long. He knows how to use his length. He has a really good jab and a really good 1-2. And he has a decent little power. We saw him crack Joshua Van. We saw him crack Diaz. Like, he drops fools left and right. So he is a good striker with decent power. It's just his takedown defense isn't very good. And again, he's been sub before. So the wrestling is advantage Costa. The jiu-jitsu advantage Costa. The cardio's a wash. They both have good cardio. And the striking, I will give the edge to Borjas, but just the smallest margin. But that MMA math is leading me to Costa. And the event is in Brazil. There's a Brazilian represented in every single fight in this matchup. And Brazilian is known for he's going to kill you chant and just swaying the judges. So even if it is a close fight, I give the advantage to Costa. So the pick is going to be Costa. The bet's going to be Costa. It's going to be greasy. Boras style, he's going to make it a sweat, but I think Costa gets the job done at minus 130. Next fight of the night, we are looking at Ishmael Bonfim going up against Vince from Hell Pichel. Bonfim is a minus 520 favorite. Come back on Pichel plus 390. Over under at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 260. Under 1.5 at plus 195. Let's start with Vince Pichel, mainly because look at his age. He's 41 years old. He is no spring chicken. This matchup was scheduled before in Brazil, but Bonfim missed weight, and Pichel said, "I'm not fighting you." So make sure you check the scales for this weight or for this matchup here. Pichel's predominantly a striker. He has okay jujitsu. He has okay offensive wrestling, defensively a liability. It's at like 27% takedown defense in his career. That's not a good number whatsoever. He has a good get up game. Once you take him down, he does work his way back up to his feet and then continue to strike with you. But his takedown defense is not good at all. And again, his jiu-jitsu is okay, but he's not a serious threat on the ground. Bonfim has been submitted a few times, but that was years and years ago, and it was against good guys. It was against Corrales, who was had that trilogy, or not, yeah, the trilogy with DJ. He lost to Hanata Moicano, who's really, really good on the ground. Like, he has some losses, but they're to really, really good guys. He's also predominantly a striker. I know he has a pro boxing background. So again, this is gonna be a stand-up war in regards to the reach advantage, Pichel, but just half an inch there, so it's not really that big of a deal. I will say Bonfim has more volume out there. He's a little more susceptible to things. Again, his jiu-jitsu and wrestling isn't great either. So can Vince mix in takedowns? Absolutely. Can Bonfim mix in takedowns? Absolutely. But I think this fight is going to be one on the feet. And Bonfim just has a little more volume out there. Neither one hit particularly hard. I don't want to trust this Bonfim at minus 520, to be honest with you, or minus 550 or whatever it's showing. I want no part of that, to be honest with you. But I do like the over. And the over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is minus 260. I think this fight goes the distance. So if you want to take that alt line, juice it up, and take over 2.5, that's perfectly fine as well. But if you also want to play it safe, get some guaranteed money in the bank, you can take that over 1.5 at minus 260 and parlay it up. The pick is going to be Bonfim. I think he has more volume in a stand up affair where neither guy hits that hard, and the crowd's going to be behind him. But make sure you watch those weigh ins. I don't like him missing weight. Watch his arm too. I know when he fought Benoit Saint Denis broke his arm in that fight when he was blocking shots. So I don't know if that's going to impact him at all. I have no idea. But the pick is going to be Bonfim, but the bet is going to be the over 1.5 or 2.5. Next fight of the night. We are not taking it over here. I'm probably going to lean the under here at plus money. We have Caricati going up against Dione Barbosa. Barbosa is a big time favorite here. Barbosa, you are looking at minus 240. Ernesta at plus 195. Over under at 2.5. It is women's MMA. Over 2.5 minus 260. Under 2.5. Minus 215 to the over, plus 165 to the under 2.5. Let's start with Ernesta. She's a decent striker. She's going to have a huge reach advantage here. We're looking at about 6-7 inches here. So that's a little concerning. She's 25 years old. She does look a little green. She is she has a history of swimming. It's not even like she's been training MMA her whole life. She picked it up fairly recently here. But with swimming, that is one of the hardest sports. They say what swimming, wrestling, and gymnastics are the most physically enduring sports. So she does have a good gas tank, and it shows. I mean, her contender series fight, she threw 100, or sorry, she landed 181 significant strikes. Like that's a shit ton, and she just kept going. She has cardio for days. Problem is, landing 181 strikes, she let her opponent land like 160 or something like that. So her striking defense isn't the greatest. She's all gas, no brakes. She also is kind of a liability on the ground. She does not have good jujitsu, and she does not seem to have very good takedown defense. It's okay, but it's not the greatest in the world. And she's 25 years old, man. She's super young. She's super green. She's super raw. And landing 181 strikes, going to decision means you don't probably carry a lot of power. She could hit you a ton, but nothing to really be scared of on the other side. She should be petrified on the other side of Barbosa, though. Barbosa is an Olympic judo practitioner. So, for someone that has wrestling issues, going against an Olympian in judo is probably not a good look. Barbosa is also a highly credentialed Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. So, not only will she get you down to the ground, she can finish you. Most of her wins are via submission. She does have two losses, so you say, "Oh, well, she's 6-2. She's not that great." Yeah, well, her two losses were to fellow black belts and fellow Olympians, so she lost to really, really good competition. Her striking itself isn't that bad. Do I think Ernesta has a striking advantage? Yeah, I do. But I think Barbosa hits harder, and it's not that big of a difference in the feet. So if this is a striking affair, and they only struck, I think Ernesto would land more strikes, but Barbosa would land the harder ones, and it would be a real greasy split decision. However, this isn't a boxing match. This is an MMA fight. And if Barbosa gets this thing to the ground, which being an Olympic judo, uh, she should be able to. She's an Olympic judoka. She should probably be able to take down the 25-year-old swimmer. And when she does, she's a credentialed black belt on the ground. Ernesta is a fish out of water, pun intended, with her swimming background. And I think she's absolutely fucked. I love the fact that the under is plus 160, under 2.5. I don't know who set that line. It's women's MMA. No one knows who they are. And I think it's free money. The pick is going to be Barbosa. I'm going to lock Barbosa. And I'm also going to bet the under 2.5. Maybe Barbosa gets caught with something that Ernesta throws out there. That's fine. The under hits. Maybe Barbosa gets the takedown. If she does, it's probably over. Under hits. Either way, a lot of win probability for that under, and more often than not, it's going to be Barbosa getting her hand raised. Next fight of the night is one where I'm kind of on an island here. We have Mauricio Ruffi going up against Jamie Malarkey. Ruffi is a pretty big favorite here. Ruffi is a minus 220 favorite. Come back on Jamie Malarkey plus 180. Over under sitting at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 160. Under 1.5 at plus 125. Let's start with Ruffi because I don't think he's that good. I don't know. Everyone's comparing him to Conor McGregor with his little karate style. I wouldn't compare him to Conor McGregor because every single representative of Fight Nerd has that karate style. When they're all fighting this weekend, John Silva has that low hands karate style. Mauricio has the low hands karate style. Kyle Barallo has a low hands karate style. They all have the same stand up. Hoofy does pack a punch. He hits decently hard, which is good for him. He's 27 years old, so he's in the prime of his life. He'll have the 1 inch reach advantage here. Got not a huge number, but still an advantage nonetheless. He tends to throw more strikes. So everything is leaning towards him just absolutely starching Malarkey, mainly because Malarkey is known for having a terrible, terrible, terrible chin. We saw Muhammad Naimov knock him out. We saw old man Michael Johnson drop him multiple times. We saw him get knocked out by Nazareth Hackpress, who has zero power whatsoever. Malarkey's terrible chin just rears its ugly head time and time again. But what I will say, I'm not a fan of Jamie Malarkey. I love betting against Jamie Malarkey. However, he is literally, if you were to type in MMA generalist, I think a big picture of white eyebrow Jamie Malarkey would pop up. He is a good wrestler, not a great wrestler. He's a good striker, not a great striker. He's a good jiu-jitsu practitioner, not a great jiu-jitsu practitioner. He has good cardio, not like weaponized cardio. He does everything at just a B to C plus level every single day. And the good news about Jamie Malarkey is that he will utilize that to his advantage. When he fought for ASEAN, we saw him get like 5 takedowns because he realized the path to victory was wrestling. When we saw him fight John Medeski, he used a jab because he was fighting a shorter guy and just jabbed his way to a victory. We've just seen this time and time again because he's able to do everything. He generally has good game plans, and even these fights he's losing against like Muhammad Naimov, he was dominating the fight before he got clipped because he has a terrible, terrible chin. So again, I there's no doubt in my mind that Jamie's going to go in and have a good game plan. Can he utilize it against Mauricio? I don't know. Mauricio was actually losing his Dana White Contender Series fight, and it was predominantly a striking affair with a Russian grappler. So I don't know. I don't think Dasufi is that good. People really like this guy. I think people are getting enamored by the camp, but excuse me, some of these fighters coming out this camp aren't that good. They're not all Kyle Barallo. So I think this is buyer beware. Can I do I think Hoofy should be the favorite? Yes. Do I think he wins the fight? Yes. Am I going to trust him at minus 220? Fuck no. They are making me bet Jamie Malarkey. I don't want to do it. I do not like Jamie Malarkey. Jamie Malarkey is probably going to get his head knocked off by a Brazilian in Brazil. However, Malarkey's the better wrestler. Malarkey's the better jiu-jitsu practitioner. Malarkey has the better cardio. And the striking, although I will say it's probably Hoofy, it's a very, very, very close stand up affair. But all the other advantages are Malarkey, and he has a plus sign next to his name. So I'll pick Mauricio because I think he's going to knock Jamie Malarkey's head off. However, if I have to place a bet, and I plan on betting every single fight, I probably will unfortunately have money on Jamie Malarkey. Next fight of the night is another one where I'm a little perplexed. We have Neto BJJ, Joaquim Silva going up against Jakar Close. Close is the big favorite, not big favorite, is the favorite here at minus 185. Come back on Silva at plus 155. Over under at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 250, under 1.5 at plus 190. Jagar Close is another one of these generalists where he has good cardio, good striking, okay jujitsu, okay wrestling. On the other side, we have Neto BJJ, who has pretty good striking, trains out of ATT, and Jakar Close trains out of MMA Lab, so they're both coming out of good camps here. He's 35 years old, so it's a little older, but Jakar Close is 36 years old, so old man versus old man here. Neto definitely has the power edge here, but I will say Jakar has the crisper striking in this matchup. I will say that Silva has the better jujitsu. However, he doesn't wrestle. So I don't think he's going to be able to utilize that. I really can't name one time I've ever seen Silva shoot a takedown. He doesn't do it. He loves jumping guillotines. He loves to catch you in things. And he does have a good ground game, but he's never on top because he never shoots takedowns. He's one of these jujitsu practitioners who fell in love with their power, and his nickname is Neto BJJ. But he only has 3 sub wins on his record, so I don't. They need to change his name or something. We saw him clock Armin Saruki and almost put him away, but then he went down, and he is a little bit of a chin issue. I do think Jakar Close is a little pillow fisted. He's not knocking out a ton of people, but ever since his neck injury that he had against Jeremy Stevens when he got shoved, whatever they did to his surgery or whatever he did after, he came back with power. He's out here knocking out Joe Selecki with slams. He's out here knocking out Brandon Jenkins multiple times in 2 rounds. Like, I don't know what switch got flipped in him, but now all of a sudden he's on a tear. And again, has a little bit of a durability issue, getting knocked out by Armin, getting knocked out by Ricky Glenn in a few seconds. Like he gets knocked out often. So at the end of the day, I will say striking advantage close. I will say durability advantage close. I will say wrestling advantage close. Jiu-jitsu advantage Silva. But if the Takara close is dictating if this fight is on the feet or on the ground, then I'm going to go ahead and just stick with the favorite and agree with Vegas. So right now it's kind of a rough night for Brazil in my eyes, but things will turn around here. I'm going to go ahead and pick close, and I'm going to bet close. Minus 185 is a pretty good line. Next fight of the night. I said things are going to turn around for Brazil. Not here. We got William Gomi as a. Sorry, this line keeps moving. Right now, William Gomi is a plus 100 dog. John Silva minus 120. Over under at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 165. Under 2.5 at plus 130. I talked about the fighting nerds and how everyone loves their camp. I love their camp. I think they're a really good fight camp. But I think this is the worst guy out of that camp. Pantoja's not that good. He's very cocky. He's very conceited. He will take 8 minutes to walk out to the octagon. Like he's one of these. Him and Tamaris Vidal are the people that take the longest time. Like people have whole dance routines, and they make it to the octagon faster than this dude. Like he just basks in. He just thinks he's the shit. It's very annoying. And now he's going to be in Brazil, and it's going to be even more annoying. It's going to be very obnoxious. And even when he's in the octagon, he's running in and pretending like he's going to fight you before the referee gets you guys started. Like he's running over to your corner talking trash. Like I cannot stand this guy. I hate this guy. He's very cocky. He does hit hard. I'll give him that. But he also has that low hands karate approach. His jujitsu, I don't know. I'm assuming it's okay being at that camp, but you don't really see it a ton because all of his wins are by knockout. He is a knockout artist. He hits very, very hard. His cardio is okay. We saw him go a whole 15 minutes in contender series, but he did slow down a little bit. And his striking defense, it could be better. It's not the greatest, to be honest with you. He's just one of these guys that just rely on their power. He wants to be very elusive. He wants to be very fast. And with that low hand approach, he wants to evade, hit very, very hard, and put you away. On the other side, we have William Gomi, who is probably his kryptonite because William Gomi does not like to get hit whatsoever. You touch this guy, he has some of the worst optics and visual optics in the UFC. He panics, he freaks out, he does not like getting touched. So he decided he's never getting touched ever again. He throws nothing but kicks from a distance. He's going to have a reach advantage here. Very low volume. Again, 4-inch reach advantage here. The leg length is probably going to be even worse. He's a 6-foot featherweight. Like the dude is absolutely massive, and all he throws are jabs and kicks, and he keeps you at bay and he runs. He will literally throw a body kick and then back up, and he is fast as shit. He might be the fastest featherweight in the weight class. He's very tall, very skinny, and very fast. Like he is fast as fuck. And that's the issue. He throws one leg kick, backs up, and you can't reach this guy. And he just runs and he circles. And they're going to have the big octagon to work with here. So he can kick and run away all day. And Silva likes to counter strike. He does not like to go first. Well, Gomi only throws 2.6 significant strikes per minute. He's not going to have anything to counter. Gomi doesn't fucking throw. All he does is throw a kick and run away. So I don't know what Silva's going to counter. This is going to be the worst fight on the card. And I cannot stand William Gomi. I can't stand Jamie Malarkey. And I'll have money on both of them. The pick is going to be Gomi. The bet's going to be Gomi. I think he is just too fast. And I think it's going to ultimately be a decision. I think it's Gomi by decision all day. But I'll just take the plus money on Gomi just in case he throws a head kick and knocks him out by accident. Next fight of the night is this where Brazil gets it going finally after a rough start. I'm going to go ahead and say no. We have Mighty Tepek Oral by as a huge favorite here. His line is actually increased to minus 250. Come back on Elves Brenner at plus 205. Over under sitting at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 140. Under 2.5 at plus 110. Let's start with Oral By. He's my guy. Says he's 26 years old. I'm not buying it. I think he's much older than that. His last fight was up at 170 on short notice against Erceg, where he went out there and just dominated, took him down 7 times, and then choked him out in round two. He is predominantly a wrestler. He's a very good wrestler, but he has some power in those hands, man. It's not like the most proficient striking in the world. Someone compared him to a Renat Fakrdimov, and that is kind of how he fights. A very well credentialed wrestler, doesn't have the greatest technique on the feet, but when he connects, you feel it. That is Oral By to the fullest, man. He can strike if he wants to strike. And I noticed that he has a pretty good fight IQ. He's gone against some grapplers and he stood the entire time and knocked them out. He's gone against some strikers and he took them down multiple times. He seems to always have a good game plan, and I love that about him. He also has very good cardio. I wish the level of competition was a little better, but he's only 26 years old, so it was appropriate. On the other side, we have another 26-year-old who keeps winning when he's not supposed to. We saw him get a massive upset over Guram. His last fight, we saw him get a huge upset win over in Saudi Arabia against Habib's boy Zagir. Um, Not Zagir. Zabira, whatever his name is, the one that got cut and the one that punched Conor McGregor in the face. Yeah, at the end of the day, Elves is a good striker. He is training on a shoot to box. So he doesn't really, no one at that camp has good striking defense. They're all kind of hittable. But they have pretty decent jujitsu. He's training with Charles Oliveira every day in the same weight class. So obviously his jujitsu is very good. And his striking, he throws a ton of volume. He's pretty dangerous on the feet. He's just a little hittable. So at the end of the day, I think Elves is very live. I think he throws a lot more volume. I think that the crowd is going to be way behind Brenner. But I think it's up to Oral By to take him down and stay safe. I don't think he's as scary as Charles is on the ground. And I've also seen Elves rocked multiple times. Guram had him falling all over the octagon multiple times. Same thing with Zabira. He's been cracked on multiple occasions, but he has a little bit of that Usman chin where he does a stanky leg, but he doesn't go out. One of these times he's going out, and I think Oral By hits that hard. But if he doesn't just crack him and put him away, he can just take him down and out grapple the hell out of him. So I think Oral By is a problem. I will say, Oral By usually fights at 170 and weighs in really light. Like he weighs in at 165, 166 for 170 pound fights. He said he wants to go 155. This fight is at 155. So make sure you check weigh-ins. Make sure Oral By looks okay on the scales. If something looks a little off, it is 15 pounds there. So make sure he looks okay. If he looks okay, go ahead and bet him. If he doesn't look okay, I think this could be a trap and you need to stay away. But the pick is going to be Oral By. The bet's going to be Oral By as long as everything's good on the scale. Next fight of the night is where Brazil finally gets it going. We have Yasmin Lucindo going up against Carolina Kovalevich. Lucinda, a huge favorite, minus 425. Come back on Karavolkevich at plus 330. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 215. Under 2.5 at plus 165. Let's start with Lucindo. She's 22 years old. She's super young and she's super good. She's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage in this matchup. And she's also a generalist, but she's very good everywhere. She's a very good striker. She's a very good grappler. She's a very good wrestler. This girl has neck tats. You'll hear shout out to Dogger Pass podcast as well as Die Hard MMA with Clint. Yeah, neck tats, scary. If she has neck tats, she's very scary. She also started fighting at 14 years old is when she's turned pro. So yeah, she's 22 years old, but she has like 20 career fights professionally. And that's because she started fighting as literally a high schooler. On the other side, we have Karolina Kovalevich, who has retired and came back to the UFC. She's 38 years old. So we have a 16-year difference here. Kovalevich is a pretty underrated grappler. She will mix in some takedowns from time to time. She will go for some submissions, but I will give Lucindo the edge in both wrestling and grappling. On the feet's close. Kovalkiewicz may be the better striker, but it's by the slimmest of margins. Also, Carolina, I talked about William Gomi not liking to get hit. Neither does Carolina. She bruises easily. She swells a ton after just years of damage. And if you hit her, she just kind of gives up in there. She does not like getting hit continually. And Yasmin brings it, man. So even though Kovalkiewicz is the better striker, Yasmin could go out there and bully her. And if she doesn't want to go out there and just march forward, get the crowd behind her, and try to get the KO, she could just take her down and pretty much at will. And when she takes her down, she can hold her down. She is the better grappler. So the pick is going to be Lucindo. The bet's going to be Lucindo. She's minus 425 for a reason. Next fight of the night, we have Jack Shore going up against Joe Anderson Brito. Brito being an okay favorite here at minus 165. Come back on Shore plus 140. Over under at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 195. Under 1.5 at plus 150. Let's start with Brito because I think he's good, man. He has wins over Diego Lopez. He has wins over JSP. Like he has some pretty decent wins. What's the dude that trains with Gagey? Chepe Mariscal has some good wins on his record. Dude hits like an absolute truck. He is power personified. Hits so fucking hard, is so fucking strong. Pretty good takedown defense. Initially, problem with Brito is his cardio. He can slow down in his fights, carrying all that muscle mass. Again, the sneaky good jujitsu. He is a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. Striking, it's not the most technical, but he hits so hard it doesn't matter. And sneaky good wrestling, man. Again, good takedown defense, good offensive wrestling. It's just when you get him tired, his takedown defense does start to dwindle a little bit. That's when you start seeing Bill Algeo take him down. You see JSP take him down easily in round 3. Like things get a little sketchy the more tired he gets. But that's if it gets that late. He hits so goddamn hard. Ask Andre Feely how hard he hits. The dude hits you once, you could go out. And that's not good for Jack Shore because Jack Shore, his liability is his chin. He can be a little chinny at times, but he's a damn good wrestler. He's a damn good jiu-jitsu practitioner. And he's an okay striker, man. He doesn't have a lot of power on his shots. I mean, Timur Valiev, he dropped multiple times. But Timur might have a little bit of a chin issue. Otherwise, Shore's not really hurting a fly. But he has really good cardio, which Brito does not. He has really good jujitsu, which Brito does. And he has really good wrestling, which Brito also does. But again, it's that cardio, man. I think Brito probably wins round 1. Shore does have a propensity to start a little slow. It's going to be Brito. The line's going to shoot up. And then it comes down to round 3 is probably going to be Shore. Comes down to round 2. I think either Brito finishes him within 2 rounds, or that round 2 is the swing round. Because I do not see Brito winning a round 3 against Jack Shore. Jack Shore has really good cardio. Brito does not. So, do we see Bill Algeo 2.0 in this matchup? Or do we see Andre Feely where he goes out there and just starches them in 1 round? I don't know which one's going to happen. But what I do know is that Jack Shore is plus 140, and I'm a value chaser. So I'll go ahead and pick Brito. I think Brito probably catches him. But Shore, he's not an idiot. He is at 145, though. He generally fought at 135. He lost to Ricky Simone, and he jumped up to 145. I don't like that either. Brito's going to be even stronger than what Shore's used to, but I'm still going to trust the wrestling. So the pick is going to be Brito, but if I'm putting any money on it, it's going to end up being Shore. And I think I'm going to live bet Shore. I want to make sure he can make it through round 1. And then if he makes it into round 2, I'll live bet him because there's no way he's winning round 1. So the pick is going to be Brito, but I'm going to live bet Jack Shore start of round 2. Next fight of the night, we have another fight nerd and Kyle Borrello going up against Paul Craig. We have Borrello as a big time favorite as well. He is a minus 675 favorite. Paul Craig can be had for plus 490, over 1.5 minus 210, under 1.5 at plus 160. Let's start with Paul Craig because he sucks. He has really, really, really good jiu-jitsu. He can submit anyone in the world. That is it. He has a terrible chin. He has terrible cardio. He has terrible striking, very low volume, terrible takedown defense. Like it's bad. Like he is a bad fighter. He is a jiu-jitsu fighter. He is not an MMA fighter at the end of the day. He used to fight at 205. He dropped down to 185. People are saying he looks better at 185. I don't know. He tapped out another gas bag in Andre Muniz, and then he got absolutely starched by Brendan Allen. So I is he looking better at 185? Are we sure about that? That's what I think we're gonna find out here with Kyle Borrello. Kyle, like all the rest of the fighting nerds, that karate stance, very low hands. But unlike some of the other ones, he does hit particularly hard. We saw him get a knockout on the Contender Series the second go around, and we saw him knock down Aaron Jeffries multiple times. He's a good fighter. In his first showing in Contender Series, he has world class jujitsu, lived and trained with Damian Maya for multiple years, so he is more than solid on the ground and is a sneaky good wrestling game, man. We've seen him take down multiple high level grapplers, so he can wrestle. He has great jujitsu and he can strike. It's just very low volume. He hits hard, which makes up for it. I just wish he threw a little more. He darts in and out with that karate style, but all in all, he's a very, very good fighter, especially in this weight class. If you can wrestle, you're going to go a far way. I think Kyle is going to run into issues once he hits like the top five, but that ain't Paul Craig. This is a setup fight. Kyle is Brazilian. This is a setup for the Brazilian, and I think he's going to crush. The pick is going to be Kyle Borrallo. The bet would be Kyle Borrallo, but I'm actually going to end up, I mean, minus 675 is ridiculous. I'll probably end up just taking the under. I'll probably even steam it. I'll do the under 2.5 and cover yourself on both ends. That's the way I would play this. So the pick is going to be Kyle. The bet's going to be the under 2.5 all line. Next fight of the night, we have another Brazilian squash match. We have Michel Pereira going up against Ihor Pretoria. Pretoria can be had for plus 470, minus 650 for Michel Pereira. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is plus money at plus 120. Under 1.5 at minus 150. Now, I'll be honest with you. I don't like the fact that Pereira used to fight at 170 and Pretoria used to fight at 205. I don't like them meeting. Whenever some two people meet in the middle, I usually like taking the bigger guy. Problem is, Pretoria sucks. I can't tell you what he's particularly good at. He is by far one of the biggest can crushers the UFC has ever seen. His record is so fraudulent from the regional scene. He only fights people with negative records. And in the UFC, he's getting the shit kicked out of him. Decided to drop down to 185, missed weight at 185, and then won a close decision against another fraud. So good for you. I don't know. I guess the striking is the best part of his game. I guess he's a decent striker, but he has no jujitsu whatsoever. He has no wrestling whatsoever. He's not very durable, to be honest with you. And his cardio is not good at all. He throws a ton of volume. I'll give him that. But it's not, yeah, that's all he can do. Oh, and he beat Shogun. And I think this is punishment. He beat Shogun in his retirement fight in Brazil, and I think now this time they want him to die. Michel Pereira is on a fucking roll, 30 years old in his prime. He, again, used to fight at 170. The weight cut was too much for him, decided to go up to 185, and he looks like a new man. He's going out there and finishing everyone in under a minute at 185. He has good striking, very unorthodox striking. He will be jumping off the cage. He'll probably have a dance routine coming to the cage. He'll be doing backflips in the middle of his fight. Like, he's crazy. It's super fun to watch. He might be the most. Diego Lopez is the most electric fighter in the UFC right now, but Michel Pereira might be number two because you don't know what the fuck he's going to do. Like, I am not kidding you when he does backflips off the cage in the middle of his fight. Like, he's fucking crazy. He does gas out doing that stuff, but the good news is he's fighting Pretoria, who's also going to gas out. But Pereira has good unorthodox striking, sneaky good jujitsu, sneaky good wrestling. And although he does gas out, I've seen him win 15-minute fights multiple times. Pretoria, I have only seen it once. So at the end of the day, even though Pretoria is the larger man, I'm still going to take Pereira. Now, watch the weigh-ins. When Pretoria decided to drop down to 185, he missed weight his last fight. And now he's taking this fight on short notice at 185. So he couldn't make it when he knew about the fight. Now he's taking it on 3 weeks' notice. Is he going to be able to make it this time? I don't know. So the pick is going to be Pereira. The bet's going to be Pereira if this fight kicks off. It may not, but we will see. Next fight of the night, we have Anthony Smith, or what's left of him, going up against Vitor Petrino. Petrino minus 575, Anthony Smith at plus 425, over under at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 200, under 1.5 at plus 155. Vitor Petrino is the most disinterested looking fighter in the UFC. Whenever he's there, he just looks like he doesn't want to be there. He's going to have a inch and a half reach advantage here, which is super nice. He's 26 years old compared to 35 for Anthony Smith, so he'll be 9 years younger, which is nice. But he just has such a slow, lethargic pace. Like, he just literally looks like he doesn't want to be there. He just swings and then just stops and just lollygags around, or he'll shoot a takedown. When he shoots his takedown, he does not continue to run his feet. He'll get you, he'll get against the cage, and then he'll just sit there and stop. And then he'll explode and he'll pick you up and he'll slam you down and then just stop. Like, he just pauses randomly in his fights. It's very weird. It's very weird looking. It's very confusing. And for some reason, it's been effective. But he is someone that I keep locking, I keep betting, I keep winning with as he's 11-0. But I keep putting an asterisk saying, I am going to fade this dude and I'm going to fade him soon. Good news is minus 205, or sorry, 205 is probably the worst weight class in the UFC right now. It's pretty bad. So he's going to get very far doing what he's doing. And I know the time is coming to fade him. Is this the right spot? Probably not. Am I going to do it? Yes. And here's why. Vitor Petrino does not have the world's greatest gas tank. He generally has pretty low volume. His fight IQ is terrible. He's taking down people that he can knock out easily. He's striking with people that like to outwork you on the feet. Like Modestas Bukakas, you take down because he just wants to go out there and win a kickboxing fight. And Prochnio is someone who has the worst chin in the UFC, and he takes him down and wants to get a submission. Tyson Pedro, on paper, is a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt, but he has a bad gas tank. And as Pedro's tired, what do? You take the jiu-jitsu black belt down? Why? Why did you not just strike with him and knock him out while he was gassed? Like, his fight IQ is god awful. He's been wrestling a lot. And I went back and I watched the last fight that he had in Brazil, thinking, well, let's see how he reacted that time. He tried to wrestle Modestas a little bit to start. If he takes down Anthony Smith, I think that's a mistake. I think Anthony Smith is damaged goods, but I think he does two things well. I think he still hits pretty hard, and I think he's still a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. He gets a lot of submissions off of his back. Is he too comfortable on his back? Yeah, he'll lose a lot of minutes down there on his back just playing jujitsu. But sometimes he asks Devin Clark, ask Ryan Spann. He'll get the job done while down there multiple times. Most of his wins are by submission. He has like 14 submission wins. He is an actual credentialed Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt. I don't think Vitor should be taking him down. Anthony Smith is coming off of a knockout 4 months ago against Khalil Roundtree that was pretty bad. If you're Vitor, you stand, you bang, and you clip him and you put him away. But I think Vitor is going to want to play jiu-jitsu. And I think you're playing right into Anthony Smith's hands. And Anthony Smith is the better jiu-jitsu practitioner. We've seen Vitor grapple an entire fight against Anton the Pleasure Man Curly, and it didn't look good. He got taken down 5 times. He got reversed multiple times. Like, it didn't. His grappling was not good. We've also seen him rocked multiple times. Vitor's low key chinny. We saw Bellato rock him. We saw who else rocked him? Not Pedro. Marcin actually rocked him a little bit. He stunned him. So Marcin stunned you. We saw Bellato rock you. Yeah, man, your chin, it's questionable. It's gonna go out one of these days as you're doing your little I don't care act. I don't know how this turned into a hate for Vitor Petrino. I think Anthony Smith is one fight too early. I don't think we should be fading Vitor yet. I think it's the next fight. But then I look at the odds and I can't help myself. So pick is going to be Vitor Petrino, but I will have money on Anthony Lionheart Smith at plus 425. And I'll also have a bet on him by submission. It's like plus 1400, plus 1800. Odds are way off. He can submit this dude. Next fight of the night is the co-main event of the evening. We have Jonathan Martinez, a minus 150 favorite, going up against the King of Rio in Rio, Jose Aldo at plus 125, over under at 2.5, over 2.5 minus 270, under 2.5 plus 200. Honestly, when you go back and you look at Jonathan Martinez's record, Saeed Nurmagomedov is a really good win. Outside of that, he's not beating the best competition. I mean, Perez or Alessandro Perez. He's beating Andre Ewell. He's fighting Davy Grant and losing. Like he's not fighting Adrian Yanez. Like these are all good fighters. They are not championship caliber fighters. Don't get me wrong. Martinez seemingly has good cardio. He does train at Elevation at Factory X with Anthony Smith, with Brandon Royval, with David Onama we saw last week, Yusuf Zalal we saw a few weeks ago. So he does have good company around him, and he's notorious for his leg kicks. He kicks very, very hard. He finished Yanez with leg kicks his last fight. He finished Cub Swanson with leg kicks about 3 fights ago. He's one of the only men to have multiple leg kick finishes in the UFC. Those things are deadly. He has good striking. His jujitsu's okay. We saw Saeed have a really deep rear naked choke, and he managed to get out of it. His wrestling's not the greatest, and he won't do it offensively, but defensively, it's okay. It's not really going to matter in this matchup because Jose Aldo doesn't wrestle anymore. So it really just comes down to a striking affair and those leg kicks. That's what he relies on. What I will say is that Jonathan Martinez is a little chinny. We saw Davey Grant knock him out. We saw Perez rock him. I saw him rocked in the Andre Ewell fight. He gets rocked all the time. He doesn't always go out, but I have seen him go out, so it's not impossible. So he's a little chinny, and he relies on his leg kicks. Here's why I'm going to pick the King of Rio, Jose Aldo. Old man, 37-year-old Jose Aldo. I watched him fight Pedro Munoz, who is also known for being a notorious leg kicker, and I saw him check every single leg kick. This man's checking ability is insane. I've never seen anything like it. He does not take leg kicks. He checks everything. So if you take away Jonathan Martinez's best attribute, what does he have left? Just boxing? Because Jose Aldo is the better boxer, and Jose Aldo has power and pop in those hands, and Jonathan Martinez is a bad chin. So what is he going to do? Is he going to try to grapple? No, because Jose Aldo has been in the UFC since like 2011. The dude has 94% takedown defense. You can't take this dude down. Marab Delashvili went 0 of 20 on takedowns against Jose Aldo. Marab went 0 of 20. You cannot take down Jose Aldo. So if Marab can't, Jonathan Martinez isn't. So he can't wrestle him. He can't kick him. What the fuck is Martinez going to do? Now, don't get me wrong. Aldo has not fought MMA in like 2 years, and he's 37 years old. He's going to make this weight cut down to 35. He could be extremely compromised at 37 trying to make this weight. 110%. Definitely watch weigh-ins here and see how he looks. But on paper, the leg kicks of Jonathan Martinez, Jose Aldo literally invented that. Jose Aldo is the first man we've seen go out there and utilize the leg kicks as his main weapon. He's the first man we saw go out there and leg kick TKO Uriah Faber in a title fight. Like he wrote the script on the leg kicks, and he is the GOAT at checking them. Like you cannot leg kick this man. Jonathan Martinez without his leg kicks is a defeated man. And if he's forced to box with someone that's been doing pro boxing the last 2 years and has pop in his hands while Martinez is chinny, I'm going to take the old man. And not only that, we are in Rio. We're not just in Brazil, we are in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Jose Aldo's nickname is the King of Rio. This isn't a home game for Jose Aldo. This is his backyard. This is him. He's coming out of retirement because they are in Rio. So if this thing is anywhere near close, there is not a shot the King of Rio is not getting that decision win. Give me the plus money. The pick is going to be Aldo. The bet's going to be Aldo. And that takes us to the main event of the evening. If you haven't already, what the fuck are you doing? Hit subscribe, give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Make sure you go ahead and hit that like button and let's make this money. I appreciate the support. We have Alexander Pantoja going up against Astro Boy Steve Erceg. Pantoja is a minus 190 favorite. Come back on Steve Erceg is plus 160. Over under at 3.5. Over 3.5 at minus 145, under 3.5 at plus 115. Let's start with Steve Erceg. Steve Erceg getting the title fight because Amir Albazi's hurt. Brandon Royval's hurt. Brandon Moreno retired. KKF is coming off of a injury or a few losses and an injury. Minnow Cop has rib issues and has an injury. So yeah, that's the reason Steve Astro Boy is getting this opportunity. And Muhammad Makayev just fought and is only like 23 years old. So there was literally no one else to fight Pantoja, so he reached all the way down to fight like the number 10 guy. Don't get me wrong, I love Astro Boy. I want Astro Boy to win this fight, actually. Brandon Royval is my favorite current fighter as of right now. And I think he matches up a lot better against Astro Boy than he does against Pantoja. So if Astro Boy got the job done, I'd love it. I've been riding Astro Boy since he came to the UFC. I bet him against David Dvorak. I bet him against Costa, who we talked about earlier. I bet him against Match. Did I bet him against Match now? I don't remember. Actually, no, I think I took no. But at the end of the day, Astro Boy's a good fighter, man. He's another one of these quote unquote generalists, but he can do it all. He's a massive flyweight. He's 5'8" compared to the 5'5" Alexander Pantoja, 28 years old in his prime. Half-inch reach advantage here. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's phenomenal on the ground. That's probably the best part of his game. He is a very good boxer, though, man. He has some pop in his hands. He's a very good striker on the feet. And wrestling, he has like a 72% takedown defense. He's a decent wrestler. He does everything well. Here's my problem. He can play guard a little bit when he gets taken down. I'm not a fan of that because Pantoja is someone who spams takedowns. He also has a loss to Dennis Bondar, which doesn't look great. Dennis Bondar is someone who flamed out of the UFC and is predominantly a grappler. So that tells me, how do you beat Steve Erceg? You take him down and you just hold him down. And Pantoja is also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Pantoja is someone who breaks you with pressure. He does not know how to take a step backwards. He only goes forward. And Astro Boy prefers to go forward. So that's interesting. And then Pantoja has really, really, really good wrestling. Wrestling advantage, Pantoja. Jiu Jitsu advantage, wash. Striking advantage, wash. But we are in Brazil, and Pantoja is in the main event in his home country. Yeah, definitely going to favor Pantoja here. Pantoja's also fought the much higher level of competition. Again, Steve Erceg lost to Dennis Bondar. Pantoja's losses are to like the cream of the crop, like literally just former champions and Davidson Figueroa and such. So yeah, Pantoja's been fighting multiple champions multiple times. Steve Erceg's been fighting Matt Schnell and David Dvorak. So I love Astro Boy, but Pantoja's a motherfucker. I will say Steve Erceg has the cardio advantage, but Pantoja, although he slows, he doesn't death gas. He usually loses round 5. He always gives up round 5, but he usually has enough cardio to go 1 through 4, and then just give up 5. So even if Steve were to steal around in the middle there and get round 5, he needs one more round to win the title. And even if it's a 3-2 number, you have the hometown crowd in Pantoja's favor too. So I love Astro Boy. I want Astro Boy to win. I just don't see it happening. So the pick is going to be Pantoja. The bet is going to be Alexandre Pantoja, the cannibal. And that is UFC 301. All in all, again, not the strongest card on paper, but it's going to be an interesting card to bet. And as long as you're making money, you're having a good time, baby. Let's get it.